Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Logan, and today we're going to be talking about Minecraft Pocket Edition. As you probably know, Minecraft is one of the most popular games of the last decade, with over 131 million monthly active users, over 200 million copies sold, and a huge portion of those stats belonging to the Pocket Edition fanbase. And what I really want to show you today is how to set up a Pocket Edition server. What kind of inspired this video was my friend has a daughter who's really into the Pocket Edition of Minecraft, and as a gift for her for Christmas, I actually set up a Minecraft Pocket Edition server for her. During that process, what I realized was that there was not a lot of documentation on how to do this, and specifically how to do this without having tons of like custom hardware or stuff at home. And I wanted to show you guys how to do it in a way that doesn't require any external hardware, and you can do with honestly a few button clicks. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so to start off, as you guys can see, I have the AWS pricing calculator pulled up for Ec2 instances. We're going to be setting this Minecraft Pocket Edition up in AWS using Ec2, but I wanted to show you this because there are costs involved with this specific tutorial. The reason why I'm setting it up in this particular way is because it's a lot easier from a technical perspective to set it up in the way that I have it versus than trying to go through the free tier with AWS. It is entirely possible to use the free tier, but you'll likely have to do more configuration with the Ec2 instance itself. And you'll also run into issues with how many players can be on the server. So the way that I'm setting it up allows for multiple people to be set up on the server, that you can connect with friends. And you just wouldn't really get that necessarily with the free tier. It's not impossible, but I just want to let you know that your mileage may vary. So honestly, like adjust it to the way that you see fit. If you want to try to make this free, totally feel free to go with like more cost-effective options and just try to see if it works. In this particular tutorial, we're going to be setting it up in US West 1, which is Oregon, or I think it's US West 1 or US West 2. No, US West 2. Anyways, it's going to be set up in Oregon. The operating system that we're using is Ubuntu Linux. We're specifically going to be using a T3 medium instance with 2 CPUs, 4 gigs of memory, and we're going to add 60 gigs of storage. It comes default with 30, which could totally work. And the total cost to make this run is $25.05 per month. If you do a lot with Minecraft Pocket Edition, and you're constantly playing with friends, it's a pretty low cost for running your own server in the cloud. But like I said, if you want to try to make this more cost effective, definitely play around with these features and functions and see how you can make it work. This is just a general guideline and something that I set up to make it a lot easier to set up. So now that I've showed you this, let's go ahead and jump into actually configuring this Ec2 instance. So the first thing you want to do is log into your AWS management console, which as you can tell, I'm already logged in. And the service that we're going to be using is Ec2. As you can see here, I have my Ec2 option underneath my recently visited services. You may or may not have that. If you don't, you can go into all services. It's under compute in Ec2 here, or you can go up to the search bar and actually search for Ec2, and it'll be your first hit on the search tab. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on here since it's already here. And it's most likely when you click into this for the first time, it's going to drop you into the Ec2 dashboard. As you can tell, there's a lot going on with the Ec2 dashboard. It makes it kind of difficult if you're not as technically savvy and you're trying to see what's happening. So I like to kind of dive into more specific areas of AWS to make it a little bit easier. So on this left-hand side, as you can see, there's an actual instances tab. Let's go ahead and click on that because this is where we're going to basically be for most of the time. So let's go ahead and let's launch instances. So we're going to click on that, and it's going to give you a list of all the different server types that you can, or all the different operating systems for servers that you can set up. As you can tell, there's Amazon Linux 2, AMI. This is kind of more where you're going to get into your free instances. I did try setting this up using Amazon Linux instances, and I had to do a lot of installing of packages to make Minecraft Pocket Edition work on here. So the one that I'm mainly going to be using is Ubuntu Server 20.04 long-term. This is the easiest one, and we're going to do 64-bit with 86 architecture. So we're going to go ahead and select this. And now it's going to come up with all the different instance types. For those of you who are not as technically inclined, this can look a little bit overbearing. But I'm just going to make this super easy. You just want to scroll down to T3 Medium. This instance right here, it's in the T3 family, so that can help you break it down a little bit easier. It has 2 vCPUs, 4 gigs of memory, and it is, storage EBS only, and it's up to 5 gigabits of network performance. So the reason why I selected this one, based on the documentation for Minecraft, the Pocket Edition server documentation, it really stressed having more CPUs and also low network latency, which is why we picked the one with 5 gigabits versus then something like a T2 Medium, because it's low to moderate. Since we're planning on having more people connect, it's easier to do it with higher with higher network performance or better network performance. So we're going to go ahead and select that, and we're going to go to configure instance details. And now it's going to give us all of the things that we can have for our server. So let me see if I can. I don't think there's anything that we need to configure here. Nope, we want all of our basic settings. So go ahead and just keep all the default settings there. Next, we're going to add storage. And what we're going to do is we're going to update this, and we're going to change it to the size. It's going to be 60 gigs. Yep, 60 gigs. And then we're going to do review and launch. Yep. Okay. So now it's asking us to review like what we just set up. And as you can see, it basically has the details that we just walked through. It's a T3.medium instance, 2 vCPUs, 4 gigs of memory, 5 gigabit network performance. And in our security groups, this is pretty important to start. It's basically saying like, hey, this network port is open for SSH, port range 22, and it's open to the world. The reason why this is going to be important down the line is this is the protocol that we're going to use to connect to this server in a few short minutes. So let's go ahead and launch. Cool. Okay. So, I was just talking about actually connecting to the server via SSH. This is what is going to allow us to do it in a secure manner. So this is asking, hey, do you want to use an existing key pair? I don't need to actually set up, or I don't want to set up an existing key pair. I'm going to go ahead and walk you guys through it. So we're going to go ahead and create a new key pair. You want to pick RSA, and the key pair name that we want to pick, it can basically be anything. So I'm going to call it Game Engineer Labs SSH Minecraft. Cool. So what we want to do is we're going to keep that name, and we're going to download the key pair. And as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, we get this set up right here. It downloads a PEM file, and it's going to have that Game Engineer Labs SSH Minecraft naming convention. So we're going to go ahead and launch our instances, and we just want to keep track of where this PEM file goes. So in my case, it goes to a downloads folder, and I just have to remember that for when we're trying to connect to the instance. So as you can see here, it's the instances are now launching. So now we can go back into EC2, and we should be able to see our instance. Okay, so as you guys can see, I'm back at the instances window, and over here we have the instance that we configured. So as you can see, it's running, the status check, 2 out of 2 passed, and it's given us the details of the server itself. So the main thing that you want to look at, it's the public IPv4 DNS and public IPv4 address. So this is how we are going to essentially connect to the server. This is telling us where the server is located. But to make this easier, instead of kind of like trying to walk through it yourself, AWS actually has a really good kind of tutorial on how to connect that doesn't require you to memorize like SSH commands or anything like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on this checkbox right next to your running instance. And towards the top right-hand corner, you're going to see a button that says connect. So we're going to click on connect. And it's going to give us the details of connecting to the instance via an SSH client. I'm setting this up on Mac, so I have terminal with SSH already set up. If you're using a Windows machine, you need to find an SSH client that'll allow you to connect. But we're just going to walk through this setup. So I'm going to go ahead and open terminal. Here we go. And so we have terminal here, and this PEM file that we downloaded is going to be the key to us to connect to the instance. So we're going to go to the downloads folder to find this PEM file. Okay, so now we're in downloads. And what we need to do is we need to configure the permissions to allow us to essentially pass the PEM file to the server. So as you can see here, it says run this command if necessary to ensure your key is not publicly viewable. So to the left of this statement, there's a little copy thing. We're just going to click on that, command copied. We're going to go back to our terminal and we're going to click command V in my case, since I'm using a Mac. And it's not going to tell you anything after that, but this is a good sign. This is essentially telling us that, yeah, I ran your command. It has worked. So now we need to actually connect to the instance using the public DNS. So that's where that EC2, 3, 5, 8, 8, that whole thing set up. But it gives you an example down here, SSH-I with the PEM file and the actual location of the server. And the good part is that this is the accurate SSH statement that we need to connect to this instance. So let's go ahead and just copy it the same way like we copied up here. We're going to go back to terminal and we're going to just paste that into terminal. Now it's going to ask you the authenticity of the host, giving the host name can't be established, gives you the fingerprint information. Are you sure you want to continue connecting? And we want to type in yes. Bam. So as you can see, now our terminal window has changed. It actually has the type of the instance and the actual IP address of connecting to this instance. And it gives us nothing. So if we do ls, we can see, hey, nothing's showing up. ls being listing the contents of the directory. There's nothing in here. This is a fresh server install. So the next thing that we're going to do is that we are going to go to the Pocket Minecraft server documentation. Yep. Okay. So here we go. So the first thing that opens up when you go to the actual Pocket Minecraft documentation, and I'll go ahead and put this in the description below so you don't have to hunt for it. But we want to go to the installation instructions. So we're going to go ahead and using this web address, and this works for Linux or Mac OS only. And luckily, since we're doing this on a Linux box because we're remotely connected to it, all we have to do is run this command right here, this curl command. So we're going to go ahead and copy it, go back to our terminal, and now we're going to paste this in. Bam. So it's going to go ahead and run through the install, and it might take a minute. There we go. So now it's telling us that the install is done. It basically said everything's done. Run ./start.sh to start Pocket Mine MP. So if we run that command again, the ls command that I did beforehand, now we have a whole bunch of stuff in our directory. So as you can see, there's contributing.md license, pocketmine-mp .phar, readme.md, bin, and that start.sh, the one that everything done message basically said. So what we want to do is we want to type // and then start.sh. We're going to run that, and now it's going to actually run us through the install settings or the wizard for setting up the Minecraft server. So I'm going to use the default setting for language because this is English and I'm speaking English and that's the language that I understand. And now it's going to say, hey, do you want to accept the license? So the gist of this license is that you can't sell the source code. You have to make it publicly available. You have to be able to like reference that you got it. If you do that you got it from this group, if you do anything with it, it's basically just saying you can't monetize it or you can monetize it, but you have to be able to reference this documentation and the original server distribution. So we do accept the license. Yes. Do we want to skip the setup wizard? The answer to that is no. So we're going to do capital N for that. Give a name to your server. So we're going to call it Gamegineer Labs. Do not change the default port value if this is your first server. Okay, server port 19132. This is super important. You need to get this in order to connect to your Minecraft server. So we are going to keep that the same. Choose between creative or survival. I'm just going to do creative, so that's 1. But the default is survival. So if that's your jam, totally do it. There are ways to actually change this on the server later down the line, but I won't go into how to do that. I will just reference tell you to reference the documentation, and it'll give you like instructions on how to do that. Max number of players, we're going to keep the default. So the next thing it pops up with is an OP is the player admin of the server. OPs can run more commands than normal players. OP player name. So you want to use your player name in Minecraft in order to like become an admin. In this case, I'm not going to show you how to do that, but you just want to put in your player name here, and that'll give you expanded rights to do more things like give different items, to spawn certain things into the world, that sort of jam. So we're just going to go ahead and skip that. You'll be able to add an OP user later using /OP and then the player name. The whitelist only allows players in it to join. Do you want to enable the whitelist? No. So if you want to restrict who can get access to this, like the actual game, this is where you want to do it. I personally am just setting this up as a tutorial, so I want this open to the world. It's fine. Next question, if you want to disable it, you won't be able to, query is a protocol used by different tools to get information of your server and players logged in. If you disable it, you won't be able to use server lists. Do you want to disable query? No. Cool. Be sure your external IP. You may have to port forward your internal IP. Be sure to check it. If you have forward and you skip that, no external players will be able to join. So we want to press enter. And now it should start building everything. So while that is spawning, let's go ahead and configure our actual EC2 instance, because essentially the world is being set up, and by the time we get through this, it'll be done. But the security in AWS actually prohibits us from connecting to the server as it stands right now for Minecraft. So we need to change this. Okay. So as you can see, I've navigated back to AWS. So we want to go ahead and cancel out of this connect section. And it's going to bring up our instances. We're going to go to the left-hand side and click on the checkbox right next to our running instance. And we want to go to, I believe it's security. Yes. So you want to go to security. You want to go to security groups and click on that tab. And what this does is the security groups essentially tells AWS like what connections are allowed to connect to this server. So going back, we connected to this server via SSH, and it basically said, hey, it's open to the world. But what we want to do is we want to adjust this and allow the connection for any like Minecraft clients to connect to the server. So we're going to go to, let's see if I can find it here. We want to go up to the top right-hand corner, go to actions, and click edit inbound rules. And what we want to do is we want to add a rule. And it's going to be custom UDP, and the port range is going to be 19.132. And to make this simple, I'm going to open this up to the entire world. With that being said, what you really want to do is, like, if you don't want people messing around with the server, you don't want like unknown connections, you can actually put in IP addresses. You can configure this so that only specific people have access. I personally, just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm not going to do that. But what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to save the rules. And now what should happen is we should be able to connect. So let's go ahead and go back to terminal and make sure. Yes, so our world has spawned. So now we should be able to go into Minecraft and connect. And what we're going to connect with is the public IPv4 address. So that 35.88.1.5. So let me go ahead and open this. So I've opened Minecraft, and as you can see, it's loading. And what we want to do is we want to click on play. And we want to go to servers and then scroll down. And so now I already have a Game Engineer Labs server set up. So I'm just going to go ahead and click the edit button. The server name that you're going to put in doesn't matter. It can be the same as like what we put in for when we were configuring the Minecraft server in AWS. It does not have to be. And the server address for this, we're going to use the IP address that I showed you, that public IPv4 address. So it's 35.88.1.5. And the port is going to be that 19.132 that we configured in the security group. So we're going to go ahead and click save. Now what should happen is it should... Actually, since I already have this configured, it might not show correctly for the ping. But let's go ahead and join the server and see if it allows us to connect. Oh, locating server, generating world, loading resources. And bam. So as you can see, let's go ahead and move up. Oh, can I not move up here? I'm trapped in a tree. Let's get out of this tree so I can show you the world. Bam. Check that out. So now we have our Minecraft server set up in AWS. Perfect. Okay. So now that you guys have seen that, if you keep the server running all the time, then you'll never have to really change these configurations. I mean, every once in a while, like a public IP address is going to change. So you just have to go in and essentially change it in your settings. But what can happen is that if you don't want to keep incurring costs, like if you don't want it to be that $25 a month and you want to try to reduce it, you can actually turn off this instance from time to time and basically turn it on when you need it. So let me go ahead and walk through that and kind of show you, because when you go through that process, the IP address will actually change and then you have to change your configuration. So let's go ahead. I'm going to close out of Minecraft. We're going to save and quit. All right, so that brings us back to our servers. And now I'm going to go back to our EC2 management console. So let's go ahead and go to actions. Oh, I'm sorry, instance state. And then we're going to click on stop instance. Yep, we want to go ahead and terminate the instance. Okay, so I skipped ahead a little bit, but now as you can see, the instance state has stopped. So what we want to do is, let's go ahead and restart it. So we'll go back to instance state, start instance. Oh, there we go. So now it's running pretty quick to start it back up again. But as you can see on this public IPv4 address, the address that we used initially, it is now changed. So that's going to be super problematic with your settings in like Minecraft on your mobile device. So with the instance stopping, two things happened. The actual Minecraft server itself stopped running, so we have to restart it, and then we have to go back into our Minecraft client, which is in my case a tablet. I have to go back into the settings and update the IP address to this new address. So let's go ahead. It's the current instance is selected. So let's go ahead and click connect. And now it should give us the new connection details. Let me make sure the IP address is correct, because sometimes the connect tab doesn't actually update. So you want to make sure it has the right IP address. So this one ends in 222. This one ends in 222. Okay, so we are good. Let's go ahead and connect. And we're going to copy this example statement again and go back to terminal. So luckily with my terminal, I'm still in the downloads folder. So I just have to paste the new command in. And we're going to type in yes. Cool. And now we're back into the server and we're going to do this /start sh. And just from generating the world, you can see there's more files in there now. Cool. So that is up and running. We're going to cancel out of this. And now we're going to jump back into Minecraft. Go back to our additional servers, change the settings. And so now I'm going to update the server address, and we'll do 35.87.196.222. And then we're going to click save. We're going to click on that Game Engineer Lab server and we're going to join the server. Generating world, locating server, loading resources, loading, bam. All right, so now as you can tell, we were able to get back in. All right, so let's go ahead and jump back into EC2. So it's not super terrible if you're trying to shut down the server, you just have to essentially log back into the server, restart it, and then update the IP address and the configuration settings on Minecraft in order to connect to it. It's not terrible. But I think there's a better way to do it. And I kind of want to show you guys how to set it up where if your server ends up having to reboot or you have to do something and stop it, we can have it where that IP address doesn't change. The way that Amazon handles it, it's through elastic IPs, it's Amazon's terminology for static IP addresses. But let's go ahead and shut down the server. So we're going to change the instance state, go up, click instance state, stop instance. So that's going to go ahead and stop. We're going to go to the left-hand side, scroll down, and go to Elastic IPs. So let's click on that. And as you can see, I don't have any Elastic IP addresses found in this region. So let's go ahead and allocate an Elastic IP address. It's going to be in US West 2 because I'm in US West 2. And we don't need to do anything with tags because we just have one. But if you have a lot of Elastic IPs assigned to different EC2 instances or different services, you can actually click on add new tag and then you can put in whatever you want to for your key and value. In this case, I don't really care about that. So we're going to click allocate. And now what this is going to do is it's going to essentially give our account a static IP address, and it's going to be a public IP. So we want to go to actions, top right hand corner here, and we're going to associate Elastic IP address. Now we want to choose an instance. I believe it's this 8.2. Actually, let me make sure. Let's go back to instances real quick. Yeah, so it's the 8261 instance ID. So we'll go back to Elastic IPs. Top right hand corner, click on actions, associate Elastic IP address. Going to click on the instance name, that 8261 that's stopped. And then we are going to associate. Cool. So you get a message at the top. In this case, mine says Elastic IP address associated successfully, which is awesome. So let's go back to our instances on the left-hand side here. And let's go ahead and spin up our instance again. Okay, that's pending. It should connect rather quickly, but you can already tell if you look at the public IPv4 address, it's now changed to that static IP address. So let's jump back to Minecraft. Oh, actually, before we do that, we have to start our instance. Sorry about that. Connection details. Perfect. So if you look, it actually has that new IP address in there, that static IP address. So let's go ahead and open up terminal, and we'll paste that SSH statement in. It should allow us to reconnect. Type in yes. Perfect. /start.sh. Perfect. Okay. Let's go ahead and cancel that. And now let's go back into Minecraft. Scroll down to the Game Engineer Labs additional server. And now we'll put in the static IP address, the elastic IP address that we set up in Amazon. So 52.41.64.120. Okay. And now let's go ahead and save. And now let's go ahead and join the server. Connecting to external server, generating world. Check that out. So now we have a static IP address configured for it, but I think where I really want to show you is, let's close out of this. Save and quit. Let's jump back into EC2. If we click on the checkbox next to our running instance, go to instance state, stop instance. Now you can see that it's stopped. Let's go ahead and restart it. But if you look, public IPv4 address has stayed the same. But let's go ahead and start it just to show you guys. Perfect. So that's running. We still have to connect into the server to start it back up again, but now we don't have to change the command. It's already saved in here. So I should be able to connect. Yep. And then /start. Perfect. So now the server is back up and running. And if we jump back into Minecraft, I should be able just to scroll down to our Game Engineer Lab server, join server. Locating world, locating server, loading resources, and we're connected. So now that we've done that, as you can tell, having to log back into the server is kind of a pain in the butt. There are ways around it where you can actually set up scripts to automatically start the server when the EC2 instance gets rebooted. I'm not going to go into that. It's pretty straightforward to just log in and get the server running. But if you want to see more details on that, I'll try to see if I can find some resources for you guys and put them in the description. But what I do want to do is let's go ahead and close out of our Minecraft server and then go back into EC2. I do want to take this an extra step. So one of the things that I think is really nifty, if there's a way that you can connect to the server without having to put in IP addresses, because let's be real, IP addresses, they're not crazy complicated, but it doesn't look nice. And I think if you're giving this as a gift or you're doing this as a long-term setup for friends, it's much easier to do it with a web address. So I want to show you how to do it with the web address. It does require that static IP setup so that the IP address doesn't change, but let me show you how to do it. So under public IPv4 addresses, we're going to just copy this address, and I'm going to go to, in the top left-hand corner, I'm going to search for a service. It's going to be route 53. Click on that. Perfect. So in my Route 53 dashboard, I already have 2 hosted zones. But what you want to do is you want to go into your hosted zones, or in this case, if you don't have, I should clarify, if you don't have hosted zones, it's showing up as 0, it's your first time in here, you want to basically register a domain. So just go through this process here. You can check the domain and it'll give you options to buy different domains. In my case, I've already gone through that process and I have 2 hosted zones. So we're going to go ahead and load it. And as you can see, I have GameEngineerLabs.com and GameEngineerLabs.io. So I'm going to use the .io address because I think that's pretty nifty. So I'm going to click on GameEngineerLabs.io. And as you can see, it gives you all the record details for Game Engineer Labs. I am going to go to the right-hand corner over here, and you can see Create Record. So we'll click on that. In this case, we're just going to leave it the default, GameEngineerLabs.io. The record type is A, and it basically routes traffic to an IPv4 address and some AWS resources. And the value I'm going to use is the IP address that I copied. Other than that, you can keep those settings the same, and we're going to go and create records. And now this could take a few minutes for it to take effect, but let's go ahead and jump back into Minecraft and give it a shot. So I'm going to scroll down to Game Engineer Labs. I'm going to click on the edit button, and for server address, we're going to clear that out and type in Game Engineer Labs.io. And let's save and try to connect to it. Locating server, loading resources. Bam, there we go. That's perfect. So let's go ahead and close out of this, save and quit. Okay, so through this process, I showed you how to set up an EC2 instance in AWS, how to install the Minecraft Pocket Mine MP server on that EC2 instance. I showed you how to connect to it, how to assign a static IP address to that server, and then also how to take that static IP address and assign it to an A record and have it go to a web address. I hope you enjoyed the video. Obviously, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Click that like button, click that like and subscribe button. Otherwise, I'll see you guys later. Thank you.